And hello, everyone, of Rich Sports Talk, your home for all the latest and greatest on the New York Jets. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today. You can find us on YouTube and wherever podcasts are streaming. Make sure to like and subscribe to miss any of our latest New York Jets content, and make sure to check out our community page on YouTube, as we have a fun poll up there for you guys right now on future videos, including 5 potential Jets X factors for the 2025 season. But speaking of the 2025 season, it is official. The schedule for the New York Jets has been released. So we're going to go over the entire schedule, some of the little nuances of the schedule, and a couple of predictions for this upcoming season. As you can see, the Jets official schedule is out. The Jets will kick off the season Sunday, 1 o'clock, against the Pittsburgh Steelers at home, potentially against their former quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. The Jets' schedule was very front-loaded with more difficult teams. They host the Bills at home on September the 14th, back-to-back home games and early 1 o'clock games for the Jets fans at MetLife. Then the Jets will go on the road for 2 weeks in Florida. Week 3, they will be playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 1 o'clock, which will be a brutal game, especially given the heat that early in the season. But the Jets do get a bit of a break. They will play their one Monday Night Football game on September the 29th on the road against the Dolphins. I have a couple other things to say about this game, but I do think that the Jets get a bit of a benefit to that, but I'll explain in a little bit. The Jets then will come home technically for 3 straight games, but they will have a neutral site game in the middle. It will start with a 1 o'clock game against the Dallas Cowboys on October the 5th. Then they will head overseas to London to host the Broncos for the 10-12 game. That will kick off at 9:30 a.m. in the States. Then they come back home. Interestingly, no bye after the London game. They will come home to play the Panthers on the 19th. Then the Jets will hit the road again. They will go to the Bengals for Week 8, a 1 o'clock start. Potentially the trade deadline in there as well. The Jets, though, will get their bye Week 9. So right smack dab in the middle of the season. No early bye this year. Coming out of the bye, which has been notorious for this Jet team, they will host the Cleveland Browns at home, which should definitely be an interesting game. Then the Jets will hit the road for their second and final scheduled primetime game, their Thursday night game of the season, which will be in Foxborough on November the 13th. Then they will hit the road off their mini bye to play the Ravens on the 23rd of November, coming home for a 2-game home stretch against Southern teams, the Atlanta Falcons on the 30th, and then the first game in December will be the Miami Dolphins on 12/7. Then the Jets, 3 of the last 4 games will be on the road. They will be in Jacksonville on the 14th. They will be in New Orleans the 21st, coming back to host the Patriots for the final home game on the 28th of December, and then hitting the road to Buffalo. And again, guys, if you're joining us during the live stream, make sure to use that super chat feature to jump to the front of the line. Make sure to give your comments about the schedule as well for the Jets. So the Jets schedule is official. And I know you guys want to know, what are my thoughts on this schedule for the Jets? There's a little nuances within the NFL schedule that I think are very important. It's not just where you are scheduled, it's who your opponents are. So, for example, the Jets get a slight edge in week 2 because the Bills will play a Sunday night home game the week before, but they will be playing in prime time the Sunday night football game. So the Jets get a slight edge in rest there as well. But the thing that hurts the Jets a little bit, week 4, they play at Miami. Miami getting a mini bye because they will have the Thursday night game in week 3. However, there are 2 things that I think help the Jets for their matchup in Miami this year. The first thing is being a September game. I think the Jets got a huge break, this being the Monday night game. Miami is incredibly difficult, especially early in the season, the first half with the heat. We know that. We know it's a very difficult road place, especially the 1 o'clock games. So the Jets catch a bit of a break there. But the other thing that helps too is that they'll get used to the Florida heat because they played Tampa Bay the week before. A part of me wonders if the Jets, again, I know it will be a bit extended, but will the Jets just stay in Florida for that whole week in September after playing Tampa? So that is something to definitely keep an eye on. Another note to that Miami game, too, which I think will be very interesting, is we know about the rivalry uniform sets this year. And it feels like the Jets are going to be one of two games. It's going to be the Patriots or the Dolphins. I'm suspecting if I had to bet right now, the rivalry game is going to be Miami because it's early in the season. It's a primetime game on ESPN Monday Night Football. This could be a great opportunity for the league to really get these uniforms out there. Again, I know this rivalry series is going to be with the AFC East and the NFC East. And I'm kind of curious to see when it is the launching point. Will they happen week 1? Will they happen week 2? This could be an easy setup for the league, too, because in week 4, you have the first couple games. Teams have each probably at this point had their home game. Now they can dive into some of the unique uniforms. So I do predict that that could be the date where we see these rivalry uniforms is the 29th game, the Monday night game against the Miami Dolphins. Week 6 is interesting. We know that this was the London game. This, of course, came out early before the entire schedule was released. A part of me was really hoping the Jets would elect to take the bye week after this game, but maybe they felt that this would be a good opportunity, especially if they were guaranteed a home game or given insight that they would get a home game after this, that they looked at the schedule and we'd rather have the week 9 bye, which is right smack dab in the middle of the season. And a key point to remember, too, week 8 is the trade deadline. If the Jets do make some moves at the trade deadline, that would also allow them a little extra time if they bring in players to help integrate them into the roster. If they trade players, it can help them figure out how they're going to attack the last half of the season. The big thing for the Jets for me, though, is they need to be with a puncher's chance after these first 8 games, a 3-5 team at the bare minimum. Because if they come out of the bye and they win against Cleveland, go to 4-5, and again, a lot of road games, but you're looking at teams down the stretch. Will the Patriots be in a great spot in week 11? The Ravens, of course, will be, I think, probably the toughest game on the road, week 12. But then you get Atlanta with potentially a young quarterback. You have the Dolphins coming to the Jets in December, which will be a tough trip for them. You go to Jacksonville when it's not too hot in late December. Who knows where they're at that point? You have the Saints trying to lose games at that point. And the last game of the season could be very interesting. A lot of things could happen. The Bills, the last game of the season, in a way could be great for the Jets. It could also hurt the Jets. If the Bills are playing for the number 1 seed in that last game of the season, then we know it's going to be a tough game. But there's a world where maybe the number 1 seed's locked up and the positioning's locked up, and the Bills look at this and go, especially with how much they're going to be in prime time this year, that they look at a chance to rest their starters. So that's always in play as well for the final game of the season. Again, would love to hear your thoughts on the schedule. Make sure to reach out. And again, the first one that really sticks out is the Steelers. I mean, the easy layup is that it's a Justin Fields revenge game. That's going to be a selling point. Obviously, if Aaron Rodgers goes to the Steelers, and at this point, I think it's going to be Rodgers goes to the Steelers or retires. That obviously will add some intrigue. It's also nice to, again, especially the last 2 seasons, I think the Jets get a bit of a break, especially all the primetime games. But it's nice, too, because the schedule at least feels consistent. You look at this Jets schedule, and there isn't a stretch where you go, man, that looks impossible. Now, out of the gate's going to be tough. I think if you had to ask me what is the hardest stretch of this season, my argument would be really the first 3 games. And it's because, let's face it, you're facing 3 teams that were in the playoffs last year. You're facing a good division rival, but you get 2 of the 3 at home. And then I also look at the Bronco game. The Panthers game, like if you were to ask me, and again, we don't know what's going to happen this season. We don't know with injuries. We don't know with quarterback situations. I mean, this is all speculation. There's years where we think the front half of the schedule is going to be brutal and the back half will be easy, and it's the exact opposite. But the biggest game, and this is why I want the bye, is the Panthers game. That feels like if you were to ask me what is the biggest trap game on this schedule, that feels like it. Because the Jets Bronco game last year was a debacle. This team, especially the guys that were here, are incredibly frustrated. I could see a scenario where the Jets go into London. They beat the Broncos. Because again, don't forget the Broncos have to fly all the way across the country. And I'll have to double check. I'm assuming that they are playing a week 5 East Coast game. But at least for the Jets, they don't have to worry about traveling across the country twice, basically, with what the Broncos have to do. It just feels like to me that could be a game where they beat the Broncos, a team that's been a pain for this team in the last couple of years. They win in London. They get a big break. I think we as a fan base could get incredibly excited. We see the Panthers on the schedule, and we feel that this is one of the games where we're like, this should be a winnable game for the Jets. And they lose it close in a freaking nail biter. I mean, if you had to ask me, that to me could be the trap card of the season. But again, the Jets, lots of 1 o'clock games. So if you're a season ticket holder, loves the tailgate, loves the 1 o'clock games, you'll be happy. Last year, I think, November was the first 1 o'clock home game the Jets had. Jets, of course, will have a lot of early games in MetLife. I know the last couple of years it's been tough with the weather, but the majority of the games are going to be in MetLife early before Halloween, which will be nice. And also 2 primetime games. The 29th in Miami. I think that will be a very popular Jets game early in the season for this fan base to attend. I think the interest will still be in the team at that point. It's a Miami game, but it's at night. I think if you were to look at, if you're not going to the London game, like what's an interesting travel games this year, I think that Miami in the 29th could be interesting. And I think the other big travel date to keep an eye on is New Orleans on the 21st, Bourbon Street right before Christmas. So again, we also know with the new scheduling policy, games can always get moved around with flexing options. But as of now, the Jets will only have, well, I should re-say this. They have technically 3 primetime games. The London game is considered a primetime game. Personally, I don't think of it necessarily as a primetime game, but I know technically it will be. So the Jets have 3 primetime games, 2 here in the States, and both on the road, of course. So basically all 3 are on the road, even though the third one is the technical home game with the Jets hosting in London. But the Patriots will be on the road and the Dolphins will be on the road. So if you were hoping for a primetime home game, unless something gets flexed, you're not going to see it this year. But again, guys, let me know in the comments what you think about the schedule. Super chat to jump to the front of the line. Also had a great conversation with Connor Hughes yesterday. If you haven't checked out that video, go check it out. We talked a lot about the Giants. He had some great insight on Jackson Dart and Shedeur Sanders for the Giants. And for the Jets, we talked a lot about the misery of being a Jet fan. We also talked about their draft strategy, how this was more of a filling holes type of style of drafting, as opposed to getting, quote, the big names in the draft that we are really used to for the New York Jets getting. But looking at the Jets' schedule, this will definitely be very interesting this season. Again, I'm predicting the rivalry jerseys will be either the Dolphin game or the Patriot game. The one thing I would also look at, Week 18 could be very fascinating because, again, it's in Buffalo. The Bills will have, as of now, and again, this will potentially be flex, but the game the Bills are playing in Week 17, they're playing in Philadelphia in primetime. They're playing the Sunday night game, or I believe it's the 4:25. Actually, it is the 4:25s, but that also could be flexed into 8:30. We know about we know about the Eagles. Again, that's a potential Super Bowl matchup in Week 17. Look, I think if you're a Jet fan, your biggest hope is that they go into Week 18 with something to play for. I don't want another season where we're here in December and we're looking at the schedule, and with this quarterback draft coming up, that fans are going to start rooting for this team to tank. Because again, I think it will be if you are hoping that this team is going to tank, I think the stretch run for this team will be very difficult. Because I look at the teams, I don't think the Dolphins are going to be very good starting December, but they're in the mix. Week 15, the Jaguars, they're hoping to turn it around. We'll see what they are this year. The Saints are the big one to me, though, on the 21st, because the Saints, I think the Saints have made it pretty clear that they are already looking forward to the 2026 season. You look at their quarterback room, and again, I know the NFC is not the AFC, but you look at that quarterback room, they had to have knowledge of what was going on with Carr. they had chances to draft really quarterbacks this year. They did draft one, but I'm talking about like a potential first-round player. They could have drafted Jackson Dart basically to be their starter this year, but they didn't. So that to me is a game to keep an eye on as well. But I mean, one of the big things in this Jets is in the month of October, 3 technical home games in a row, but at least 2 at MetLife out of the 3. With the Cowboys, a 1:00 game. Again, that helps them, even though they're more of a central team coming out to the East Coast to play a 1:00 game in MetLife. And then you have the Panthers. And again, like I said earlier, if you were to ask me what's a big trap card game, that would be it as well. I'm curious to see how this team responds out of the bye. Again, the bye for the Jets will be week 9. Coming out, they'll be playing the Browns in week 10. And in some ways, I think the Jets get a nice benefit because they get the bye. They get the Browns, then they get the short week, so they have a bit of rest before going into a short week, and then they have the mini bye before what I think will be their toughest road game of the season, which is week 12 in Baltimore. And if you had to ask me what game could potentially be flexed in the back half, if the Jets have something to play for, obviously Buffalo could get flexed to a later time for week 18. And also for the Ravens game, potentially if the Jets maybe are 5-6, maybe they're competing, that can maybe get moved to a later time for the 23rd. But again, that's the Jets 2025 schedule. Would love to hear from you guys what your thoughts on the schedule are. Again, let us know in the live chat what you think right now for these comments. So again, let us know in the StreamYard app what the comments are. If you have any questions on the schedule, what are your thoughts? Do you think the schedule broke fairly for the Jets? Are you frustrated with the way the schedule turned out? Would love to hear from you in this channel. Again, make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to check us out wherever podcasts are available. And check out our community page because, again, we have a lot of great material in there. We give you guys options for future videos and, of course, future podcasts as well. So, again, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss any of this. So, my ultimate thoughts on the Jets schedule is it's definitely hard, especially when you look at this roster. I think it's pretty clear with the release of Thomas Morstead. This is clearly a rebuild year for this team. This season can go a lot of different directions. And we'll talk about what the X factors coming up. But there is a world, and I talked a little bit with this about Connor Hughes the other day. There's a world where the Jets become sellers at this trade deadline and go into the back half of the season just playing out the string. And I mean, look, it's very possible this team could be 0-3 going into the Monday night game. I mean, Tampa Bay is a good football team and they're a playoff caliber team. We know the Bills are a playoff and Super Bowl caliber team. We know that the Steelers, especially if they get Aaron Rodgers, are going to be a playoff contender. So this will be a very difficult stretch to start the season. If they can somehow muddle their way to around 500, I think the back half of the schedule opens up a little bit for this team, and especially with the quarterback play. I mean, you look at basically Cleveland could be playing a rookie by November. We don't know what Drake May is going to be. Lamar Jackson obviously is great, but then the Falcons, what's Michael Penix? Is Tua even healthy in December for the Dolphins? What's Trevor Lawrence going to look like for the Jaguars? And then we know the Saints quarterback room. So really outside of Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, the back half of the schedule is there isn't really a quarterback that I think a lot of people would fear, but we'll see. And again, if this team is struggling at the trade deadline, I could easily see this team selling off some pieces. One of the big things we talked about with Connor Hughes from SNY yesterday was Breece Hall. And he said, look, this new regime, they weren't shopping Breece Hall, but the phone lines were open. And one prediction I could easily see for this 2025 team is there's a very realistic world where the Jets aren't really in it. The Jets realize they need more pieces for this team, and Breece Hall becomes an asset at the trade deadline. I think there's a couple of players. Like if you had to ask me if there's any players I think get traded by the Jets, I think Quincy's one because of the contract. And then I also think Breece Hall, because Breece Hall, I think the Jets are hoping that, of course, he's a great player this year with a better offensive line, but right now it doesn't make sense to sell him. But if you can sell him this year, going into his 4th season, you have 2 young running backs on this team right now behind him with Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis. And if you're confident in them and you think Breece Hall can get you a good piece, mean, there's a world where I could see a team giving up a first-round pick, especially if they're going all in for the Super Bowl. Like, I could see a Kansas City. I could see a team from the NFC. I could see a team saying, you know what, we're going to be picking in the late 20s. Let's get a piece that could help put us over the top. So I do think that is definitely a possibility. In the way the trade deadline falls, the Jets will be going into the bye after week 8 because they play the Bengals week number 8. But again, that's definitely a possibility to keep an eye on for this schedule. But look, I don't think the Jets got a horrible stretch. There's been years we've come on here and we just look like, oh my God, the Jets are playing all over the clock the last 2 years. We've also seen stretches where you're like, man, this first half of the season is absolutely brutal. But look, I don't think the Jets have bad road trips. Again, their longest trip, I believe their longest trip of the season is going to be London, actually. So, I mean, they play mostly on the East Coast. I think the furthest west they're going to travel this year. And again, don't kill me for the geography. I'm trying to think what's more west. Again, I know it's a shorter flight probably to Cincinnati, but what's further west? Is it New Orleans or the Bengals? But again, like the Broncos are a West Coast team. Again, they're playing them in London, but then the Broncos have to go all the way to London to play the Jets. I mean, they're playing at home against the Cowboys. They don't have to travel to Dallas. They don't have to travel. They traveled to the Jaguars. I mean, the Jets must love the state of Florida. If you're NYF, I know we have I think it's NYFL or Florida Jets fan. He's going to be really happy this year because the Jets are going to be in Florida not once, not twice, but 3 times. So the Jets are going to be there with Tampa. They're going to be there with Miami, of course, and Jacksonville in Week 15. So if you're a Jet fan in Florida, especially in Central Florida, you're going to be very happy because you're probably going to be able to see your team in your state 3 times this year, which will definitely be good. Obviously, you look at the back half of the schedule, New England, the Thursday night game will be tough. It's always tough in Foxborough, especially in November, but at least it's not like late December, like where it's really bad in Foxborough. So I think you get a little bit of a break there. Jacksonville is a 1:00 game, but it's December the 15th. Again, still warm in Jacksonville, but I don't think it will be brutally hot. And then you get New Orleans, obviously indoors. And I'm kind of curious, maybe the Jets in that situation are going to stay in Florida that week and just go to New Orleans. But overall, I think the longest trip of the season for this Jet team is going to be London. And look, it's definitely good. It's definitely a workable schedule. I'm very curious to see how the Jets work it. I'm very curious, especially the first 4 games, because I think the way this first quarter of the season is going to, I think, really determine this fan base interest. If they're 1-3, but they're 1-possession games, they're close, they're feisty, they're fighting, I think Jet fans will still be invested and find a way to talk themselves with 3 consecutive technical home games, but at least having 2 of the next 3 in MetLife that they can turn the season around. But if it's a bad 1-3 start, I think you're going to see a lot of fans jump off this ship early, unfortunately. Because, again, you look at the hardest part. I think the hardest part of the schedule, I don't think there's any world-beating parts of the schedule, but you get the Steelers at home, which is nice. You get the Bills, which is nice at home. But, again, these are playoff teams. You're at Tampa. They're a playoff team last year. And I think I'd rather get the Bills at home early. Maybe they're still working on some stuff. You can throw some stuff at them that they're not really expecting. You're still early with this offense. They don't really know what you're running, what your tendencies are. The Steelers is a big one because that's going to be a really standout game because you know the Steelers are going to travel well. You know it's probably going to be 30-70 in the stands, 30 Steeler percent, 70 for the Jets, maybe even 40-60. And you almost wonder, did the NFL just do this just to give another incentive for Aaron Rodgers to come back? And I will say, if Aaron Rodgers is playing week 1 in MetLife, that is going to be a fascinating crowd and a fascinating reception. Because I feel the majority of Jet fans are just frustrated and we're done with Aaron Rodgers. But it would be very interesting to see how Aaron Rodgers handles it. Because, again, we saw it last year with this team. Like when he doesn't know the line calls, it's early in the season. He's trying to get stuff figured out. I almost think it could be a benefit to the Jets if maybe Aaron Rodgers comes in. Because, yes, Aaron Rodgers wants to beat the Jets, but he runs a very sophisticated offense with a lot of different calls. We saw it last year in San Francisco. Yes, there was a couple flashes, but mostly he looked very uncomfortable in that pocket. And it's very curious to me how some of these Jet defenders are going to feel. Like, I feel like the last 2 years, this team has kind of been hung out to dry a little bit. So I'm very curious to see how this team reacts, especially if Aaron Rodgers is playing early in the season. But again, no brutal West Coast trips, no brutal turnarounds really on the schedule. I mean, the short week too, I think the Jets benefit because they're going to be going on a short week to New England, but they would have had the bye the week before. So they'll have a little bit more rest in the tank before they go up to New England. But I also predict too, like if we want to talk about the rivalry jerseys, I think that you're going to see them probably, my guess is week 4 in Miami. I think that could be the launching point for the NFL season for those rivalry jersey sets. So I'd also keep an eye on week 4. I do think the backup is week 11. Again, I'm not sure what the rivalry jerseys, if it's meant to be just one-on-one with one team or you're supposed to wear it twice potentially. But I'll be very fascinated to see that. I almost get the feeling too, especially if you had to do some predictions for the Jets, because again, I'm a huge jersey nerd, so I'm going to make some jersey predictions. I feel they're going to bring the white throwback that they did last year back again, and I predict they'll probably wear that in the first 2 weeks. I feel the Jets are probably going to wear white at home. Maybe they'll do a white throwback for the New York Titans. Again, I'm not a fan of the Titans uniforms, but I get the feeling like if I had to go jersey guesses, I almost feel like if you like the white jerseys, you're going to see them a lot. I feel like the Jets are going to wear white, the first 2 weeks of the season. They'll probably be forced to wear green when they go to Tampa. Miami, they might wear white because, again, it's a night game. Cowboys, I hope the Jets wear white against the Cowboys on October the 5th because, again, invoke the Cowboys curse of the blue jerseys. But, if it is curious, too, because one of the big questions, too, is one of the favorite jerseys for the Jets are the black jerseys. When will they wear those jerseys? And, again, they won't have a home primetime game to wear the black jerseys. If I had to guess, one spot for them could be the 19th because it's right before kind of Halloween. I could see them maybe wearing against the Browns, but black, brown, and orange, I don't know how that would look on TV. Maybe the Dolphins in December, the December 7th game, which is a 1:00 game at home, or maybe the final home game of the season, which is 12/28 against the New England Patriots. But those are a couple of the jersey guesses. I still think the rivalry one's going to be the 29th. Like if I had to put money on it, I think it's going to be the 29th. But again, comment in the live stream your thoughts about the Jets, about the schedule breakdown. And again, also check out our page. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our latest content. But also make sure to check out yesterday's video where we talked with SNY insider Connor Hughes about both the Jets and Giants rookie classes. And that was really something special. But last call for comments here today. Just want to make sure that we don't miss anything. And again, if you have any questions or comments after the video or the podcast, make sure to comment below. I'll make sure to read your comment and get back to you as soon as we can. But I will say we will be back tomorrow with another New York Jets video. I was going to do it today, but I wanted to give you my feedback on the Jets schedule. So tomorrow we're going to do a video that you picked. You helped me get through this. We put a page up for different ideas for Jets videos, and you want to go through the top 5 X factors. And I'll give you a little bit of a preview. So what I mean an X factor, I think these are 5 players for the Jets that if they improve or if they have very good seasons, this could be a surprise year for the Jets. However, if they don't have an impactful year or they don't make the impact that we're expecting or hoping for, this could be a very rough season for the New York Jets. And again, we'll have to see. There's a lot of guys, still young players on this football team that will have an opportunity. One of them we talked a lot about yesterday with Connor was Malachi Corley. And again, Malachi Corley had immaturity issues that Connor talked about with the previous coaching staff that they weren't thrilled about. And you hope he's been humbled through that first season. And maybe this new coaching staff can get something out of him. Like that would be an example of a player to really keep an eye on. If he has a big year for the Jets, that really helps this team. If he doesn't, that could really hurt the development of this football team. Thomas Morstead also. My thoughts on Thomas Morstead is I'm very disappointed the Jets released him, but I understand why. Yes, he is an unbelievable person. Yes, I would have loved that leadership on this team. But a part of me also wonders too, did Morstead really want to be here? Again, I know he loves being part of the Jets. A part of me thinks he asked them for a gentleman's release, basically saying, look, I'm 38. I would like an opportunity to maybe try to make a playoff run somewhere. Probably not going to happen here this year. And look, this is a young football team. This is a tear down. This is a rebuild. And as much as I think Aaron Glenn wants to compete this year and wants to make the playoffs this year, I think they realize that this is a big teardown. They've torn down a lot of the aspects of this team. They're redoing this whole organization. But we'll see if it works. And really, I think how this season starts for this fan base is going to determine this team's interest. And I understand where fans are coming from. Fans are burnt out by this team. I get it. It's been a long 15 years. But I also understand, too, especially the last 2 years, there was such expectation for this team. And it felt like things were going to change. And when they did it, I think a lot of this fan base ended up being demoralized. And look, I do love Aaron Glenn. I like the attitude he's bringing to the table. But until we see this Jet team on the field and until we see this team make a big turnaround, I think every Jet fan is going to be pessimistic. And they have every right to be. Because, again, this team, and this is one of the things I love about this fan base, this is an incredibly loyal fan base. This is a fan base that has taken so much over the last couple of years. But I love talking to this fan base because they are passionate. They always have great insight. They always ask great questions, and they are fully invested in this team. And that's why I love making this content for you guys, because you guys, despite everything that has happened, you bring your A game every single video, every single home game, and I love you for that. Again, guys, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button and check us out wherever podcasts are streaming. We will be back tomorrow for, again, our top 5 X factors for the 2025 New York Jets season. Make sure to be here tomorrow. Again, if you're joining us after the live stream and you want to get a question in that I can read in the next video, comment below. I'll be happy to answer it. Until next time, I'm your host, Nolan Rich, and this has been Rich Sports Talk.